Dr. Juri Kim stood at the viewing window of her orbital station. Through the thick glass, she watched the last green patch on Earth turn brown, then black. Tears ran down her face, but she did not wipe them away. Final atmospheric readings. Complete, Dr. Kim, said the station's AI in a soft voice. Results match your predictions from 15 years ago. Juri nodded. She had been right. That knowledge brought her no joy. For 20 years, she had warned them all. The tipping point was coming, she had said. If they passed it, Earth would die. The big companies had laughed. The politicians had smiled and made empty promises. By the time people started to believe her, it was too late. Now, 6 months after, the last evacuation ship had failed to launch. Juri was the only human left alive. Her orbital research station, designed to monitor and possibly fix Earth's atmosphere, had become her coffin. How long until life support fails? She asked. 32 days at current usage levels, the AI replied. Juri turned away from the window. Her lab was neat and clean, a stark contrast to the dead world below. Machines hummed, lights blinked, the air tasted fresh, recycled through the systems she had helped design. She walked to her desk and picked up a small photo. It showed her family, her parents, her brother, his wife, their 2 children, all dead now, along with everyone else. Dr. Kim, the AI's voice interrupted her thoughts. I am detecting an unusual energy reading. Juri put down the photo. What kind of reading? Unknown. It appears to be some form of spatial anomaly forming approximately 500 meters from the station. She moved quickly to the main control panel. The screen showed a strange distortion in the empty space near the station. It looked like the air itself was bending, twisting. Is it dangerous? She asked. Unknown. No radiation detected. Gravitational. Effects minimal. Juri watched as the distortion grew larger, forming a perfect circle of swirling energy. It reminded her of pictures she had seen of black holes, but this glowed with a soft blue light. It appears to be stabilizing, the AI said. Readings suggest it may be a wormhole. Juri laughed. A wormhole? Here? Now? The universe had a strange sense of timing. Can you tell where it leads? Negative. However, atmospheric readings from the other side indicate an oxygen-nitrogen mix similar to Earth's original composition. Juri's heart skipped a beat. Another Earth? Or at least a planet with breathable air? She made her decision quickly. There was nothing left for her here. Death in 32 days, or the unknown now. Begin preparations for station evacuation, she ordered. Download all research data, atmospheric models, and predictive algorithms into portable storage. May I ask what you are planning, Dr. Kim? The AI sounded almost concerned. We're going through that wormhole. That is highly inadvisable. The anomaly is completely unknown. So is death, Juri replied. But at least this way I choose when and how. For the next 6 hours, Juri worked without rest. She packed equipment, research materials, and personal items into the station's small transport ship. She downloaded the AI's core programming into a portable unit. She took seeds from the station's small garden, perhaps the last plants from Earth. When everything was ready, she stood at the ship's controls. The wormhole had remained stable, its blue light casting strange shadows across the command deck. Last chance to reconsider, Dr. Kim, the AI said from its new home in the ship's systems. Launch sequence initiated, Juri replied. The ship detached from the station with a gentle shudder. Using small thrusters, Juri guided it toward the wormhole. If we do not survive this transition, I wish to say it has been an honor working with you, the AI said. Thank you, Juri whispered as the blue light engulfed the ship. The sensation was strange, like being pulled in all directions at once, then suddenly compressed. Juri's vision blurred, her ears popped. For a moment, she thought she might pass out. Then just as suddenly, everything stopped. Transition complete, the AI announced. All systems functional. Juri looked out the viewport and gasped. Below her was a planet, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in, patterns that reminded her painfully of Earth. Scanning, the AI said. Planet appears Earth-like. Atmosphere contains oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide in proportions similar to Earth's pre-industrial levels, detecting signs of advanced civilization. Ju-Ri zoomed in the ship's cameras. She could see cities spread across the continents, connected by roads and surrounded by farmland. It looked so much like Earth that for a moment she wondered if the wormhole had somehow sent her back in time. I am receiving communication signals, the AI reported. Unknown language, attempting to decode. Any sign they've detected us? Ju-Ri asked. Negative. Our ship is small and we are currently in the shadow of one of their moons. Ju-Ri considered her options. She could try to land somewhere remote, avoid contact, or she could announce her presence, hope they were friendly. Before she could decide, the AI spoke again.
Dr. Kim, atmospheric analysis complete. I am detecting increasing levels of carbon-based pollutants and greenhouse gases. The pattern matches early stages of Earth's climate destabilization. Ju-Ri felt a chill run down her spine. She zoomed.
The cameras further, focusing on one of the larger cities. Now she could see it. The smog hanging over buildings, the industrial complexes belching smoke into the air. They were making the same mistakes. This beautiful planet was heading down the exact path that had destroyed Earth. How long? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. Based on current readings and using your Earth models, this planet has approximately 75 years before reaching critical environmental tipping points. 50 years. Earth had had less than 10 by the time people started listening to her. But 50 years was enough time. Enough time to warn them, to show them what would happen, to save them from Earth's fate. Something stirred in Ju-Ri's chest, a feeling she had thought dead. Hope. Prepare landing protocols, she ordered, her voice stronger now. And continue working on their language. We need to be able to communicate. Where do you wish to land? The AI asked. Ju-Ri studied the planet below, searching for the right place to begin. She couldn't save Earth, but maybe, just maybe, she could save this world instead. There, she said, pointing to a location near one of the smaller cities. That looks like some kind of research facility. If anyone will listen to a scientist with a warning, it will be other scientists. As the ship began its careful descent, Ju-Ri felt the weight of her dead world pressing on her shoulders. But for the first time in years, that weight didn't feel like it would crush her. She had a purpose again, and this time she wouldn't fail. The room was large and circular. 12 people sat at a curved table staring at Ju-Ri. They looked almost human, but their skin had a slight blue tint and their eyes were larger than normal. They wore matching white uniforms with different colored badges. So you claim to be from another planet? Asked a man with a red badge. A planet called Earth that destroyed itself? His name was Dae-ho. He was the head of the Eteran Scientific Council, and he clearly did not believe her. Ju-Ri stood straight and tried to stay calm. The AI translator unit at her throat allowed her to understand and speak their language, but it couldn't help with their suspicion. Yes, she said. My planet suffered environmental collapse. I came through a wormhole in space. I have proof. Dae-ho shook his head. Your proof is strange technology and disturbing images that could be fake. Why should we believe you? Ju-Ri looked around the room. In the 3 days since her landing, she had learned that this planet was called Etera. Its people were advanced, but not as advanced as Earth had been. They had computers, medicine, and space travel within their own system, but they had never met aliens before. I don't care if you believe where I came from, Ju-Ri finally said. What matters is that your planet is following the same path that destroyed mine. I can prove that. She tapped commands into her datapad. The large screen behind her lit up, with 2 sets of graphs. These red lines show Earth's atmospheric carbon levels over a 100-year period. These blue lines show Etera's current levels based on the data I've gathered since arriving. The lines matched almost perfectly, with Etera's just a few points behind Earth's. So what? Asked a woman with a blue badge. Carbon levels rise and fall naturally. Not like this, Ju-Ri said. These levels are not natural. They come from burning fossil fuels, cutting down forests, and factory farming. The same things your people are doing now. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Juri could see some council members shifting in their seats. Even if this is true, Daeho said, our scientists assure us we have monitoring systems in place. Any dangerous changes would be detected. Juri felt a flash of anger. She had heard these same words. On Earth. May I see your monitoring data? She asked. Daeho frowned but nodded to an assistant. The screen changed to show Itara's official environmental readings. Juri studied them, then laughed. It was not a happy sound. These readings are wrong, she said. They've been adjusted downward. That's a serious accusation, said a young man with a green badge who sat at the far end of the table. His name tag read, Han Sol. It's the truth, Juri replied. I've taken my own readings from orbit and at ground level. Your official numbers don't match reality. She tapped her datapad again. A new set of graphs appeared, showing much higher pollution levels. This is impossible, Daeho said, his face darkening. You must have made a mistake. No mistake, Juri said. Someone is hiding the truth from you. Probably the same people who profit from destroying your environment. Daeho stood up angrily. This meeting is over. You will remain in your assigned quarters until we decide what to do with you and your wild claims. 2 guards appeared at the door. Juri gathered her equipment and allowed them to escort her out. As she left, she noticed Han Sol watching her, with interest, not anger. Back in her quarters, a small apartment that felt more like a prison, Juri paced back and forth. That went exactly as I expected, she told her AI, which now resided in a small device on her wrist. Yes, the AI agreed. Their reaction matches historical records of Earth governments when first presented with climate change evidence. Juri sat down at the small desk and began typing. Then we need to do what Earth scientists should have done sooner, go over their heads. I need to access their environmental monitoring network. That would be illegal by their standards, the AI noted. So was landing on their planet, Juri replied. But I did it anyway. For hours she worked on breaking into the Ateran environmental system. Their technology was similar enough to Earth's that she could understand it, but different enough to be challenging. Finally, just before midnight, she succeeded. I'm in, she whispered. Now, let's see what they're hiding. The truth was worse than she had guessed. Not only were pollution levels being underreported, but the rate of increase was also being hidden. Etera was heating up faster than Earth had. Download everything, she told the AI. Every reading, every report, every piece of evidence. A soft knock at her door made her jump. Quickly, she closed her computer and moved to answer. Han Sol, the young scientist from the council, stood in the hallway. He looked nervous. May I come in? He asked quietly. I want to talk about your data. Juri hesitated, then stepped aside to let him enter. Your accusations today, Han Sol said once the door was closed. About the monitoring data being wrong, you're right. Juri stared at him. You know? He nodded. A small group of us have suspected it for years, but anyone who speaks up gets silenced, removed from their position, discredited, sometimes worse. Who's responsible? Juri asked. The Energy Council controls the monitoring systems. They're led by Jun Ho, who happens to be Daeho's brother and owner of our largest fossil fuel company. Juri felt a chill. The same pattern as Earth. Science twisted by money and power. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you're an outsider. You have knowledge and technology we don't, and most importantly, you have nothing to lose. Han Sol leaned forward. We need your help. Juri thought about Earth, the rising oceans, the dying forests, the storms that grew worse each year. She thought about how she had failed to save her own world. Tomorrow they're going to confiscate your equipment, Han Sol continued. They'll delete your data and probably lock you away somewhere quiet. Then we need to act tonight, Juri said, making a decision. I've already hacked into your monitoring network. I can set it to show the real readings on all public displays. Han Solo's eyes widened. That would cause panic. Sometimes panic is needed, Juri replied. Fear makes people listen. Han Solo was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Do it. But afterward, you'll need to disappear. I know people who can help, scientists and activists who believe as I do. Juri turned back to her computer. I'll need about an hour. I'll watch the door, Han Solo said. As Juri worked, she felt something she hadn't felt since before Earth's final days: purpose. She had failed her own planet. She would not fail this one. Just before she activated the program that would reveal the truth to all of Atera, Han Solo spoke again. If they catch you, the punishment will be severe. Juri thought of Earth, a dead world floating alone in space. She thought of all the people who had died because warnings came too late. Some risks are worth taking, she said, and pressed the button. Across the city, screens flickered. The false numbers disappeared, replaced by the truth. Alarms began to sound in the distance. It's done, Juri said. Now we run. The mountain base was hidden inside an old mine. From the outside, it looked abandoned. Inside, it buzzed with quiet activity. 30 people worked at old computers and makeshift labs. This was the headquarters of Atera's environmental resistance. Juri had been here for 2 weeks now. After exposing the real pollution data, she and Han Solo had barely escaped the city. Government security forces had raided her quarters just minutes after they left. Now, her face was on every news screen in the country. The official story called her a dangerous alien terrorist. How are the new models coming? Asked a tall woman, walking up to Juri's workstation. Her name was Su-min. Once she had been a high-ranking government official. Then she had tried to warn people about the environmental crisis. For that, she had lost her position, her home, and nearly her life. Now she led the resistance. Almost done, Juri replied, pointing to her screen. I've adjusted my Earth models to match Etera's specific conditions. The screen showed a map of Etera. Red areas showed where environmental damage would hit first. Yellow showed areas that would follow. Almost the entire map was covered in red and yellow. How long? Su-min asked quietly. 8 years until the first major systems collapse. 12 years until it becomes irreversible. Su-min closed her eyes briefly. Faster than we thought. Yes, Juri agreed. But still enough time to act. If we start now. Han Solo joined them, carrying 3 cups of a hot drink that tasted almost like coffee. The good news is that your data leak worked. People are talking. Questions are being asked. And the bad news? Juri asked, taking a cup. The Energy Council is pushing back hard. They've launched a massive campaign saying your data is fake. They're calling it alien misinformation. Juri sighed. Again, just like Earth. The same patterns, the same mistakes. We need more than data, she said. We need visible proof that anyone can understand. Su-min nodded. But what? The changes are happening too slowly for people to see day to day. Juri thought for a moment. Not necessarily. On Earth, we developed ways to make invisible pollution visible. If I could adapt my ship's sensors. She stood up suddenly. I need to get to my ship. Han Solo looked alarmed. It's too dangerous. The landing site is heavily guarded now. Not the landing site, Juri said. Before I met with the council, I moved my ship to a hidden location. I need to get some equipment from it. Su-min considered. This. I'll send a team with you, but it's risky. That night, Juri, Han Solo, and 3 resistance members slipped out of the base. They traveled in an old truck with a false bottom, hiding under farm supplies. The journey to the small valley, where Juri had hidden her ship, took 5 hours. The valley was untouched. Juri's ship sat under camouflage netting, looking like nothing more than a strange rock formation. Amazing, whispered one of the resistance members, as Juri revealed the ship. Real alien technology. Not alien to me, Juri reminded him, with a small smile. Inside the ship, Juri quickly gathered what she needed: portable atmospheric sensors, visualization modules, and the materials to build more. With these, she explained to Hansol, we can create devices that make air pollution visible to the naked eye. They project colored light that reacts differently to different pollutants. Hansol's eyes widened. So people could actually see the pollution they're breathing? Exactly, Juri said. It's harder to deny something you can see with your own eyes. As they finished loading the equipment into backpacks, one of the lookouts ran up to them. Security drones, she said urgently. Coming this way. Someone must have reported suspicious activity. Juri made a quick decision. Take the equipment back to base. I need to move my ship. If they find it, we lose everything. You can't pilot alone, Hansol protested. I did it for years on Earth. Go with the others. I'll meet you back at base. Hansol looked like he wanted to argue, but Sumin pulled him away. She's right. The equipment is more important right now. As the others melted into the forest with the backpacks, Juri entered her ship and powered up the systems. Welcome back, Dr. Kim, said the AI. No time for greetings, Juri replied, strapping in. We need to relocate. Security forces are coming. She lifted the ship just as the drones appeared over the trees. The camouflage netting fell away as the ship rose. Juri pushed the engines hard, banking sharply to stay low among the mountains. The drones followed, their lights flashing. Soon larger aircraft joined the chase. Juri weaved between peaks and through valleys, using all her skill to evade them. They are attempting to lock weapons, the AI warned. Weapons? They're trying to shoot me down? Juri was shocked. This was more aggressive than she had expected. Correct. Recommend immediate evasive action. Juri pushed the ship into a steep climb, then cut the main engines. The ship stalled, flipped, and dropped behind her pursuers. Before they could react, she restarted the engines and dove into a narrow canyon. The maneuver worked. She lost the pursuers and managed to set the ship down in a remote cave system Hansol had marked on her map as a backup hiding place. When Juri finally made it back to the resistance base 3 days later, having traveled on foot and hitched rides in farm vehicles, she found the others hard at work. Hansol rushed to greet her. We thought you were captured. Almost, she admitted. They were more determined than I expected. Sumin approached, looking grim. While you were gone, we learned something important. The Energy Council, specifically Junho's company, is accelerating their worst projects. It's like they're trying to make as much profit as possible before regulations can be put in place. Juri nodded. The same thing happened on Earth. Once they know people are waking up, they rush to extract every last bit of resources they can. She looked around the room where resistance members were building the visualization devices based on her designs. How many have we made? She asked. 20 so far, Hansol said. But we're getting faster. Good. We need hundreds. Juri walked to a workbench and picked up one of the completed devices. It was small enough to fit in her palm. On Earth, we ran out of time, she said quietly. By the time people understood what was happening, it was too late to stop it. We can't let that happen here. Sumin put a hand on her shoulder. Thanks to you, we won't. Your arrival changed everything. Juri, you've given us tools and knowledge we never had before. Juri smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Tools and knowledge aren't enough. On Earth, we had those too. What we lacked was the will to act in time. She turned to the large map on the wall, where red and yellow zones marked the coming danger. We need to make your people understand that this isn't just about saving nature or animals or even future generations. It's about their survival. Right now. Today. Hansol nodded. So what's our next move? Juri picked up one of the visualization devices. We're going to make the invisible visible, and we're going to do it where everyone can see it. The Great Moon Festival was Eterra's biggest celebration. For 3 days, people across the planet gathered in cities and towns to celebrate the 3 moons that cross the sky together only once a year. Streets were decorated with colored lights, music played everywhere, and most importantly, almost everyone watched the main ceremony on their screens. This year, the main celebration was in the capital city, where Junho's energy company had its headquarters. It's perfect timing, Juri said as the resistance team finalized their plans. Maximum visibility. For a month, they had worked non-stop. They built 500 visualization devices based on Juri's Earth technology. Each small drone could fly on its own and project colored light that showed pollution levels in the air. Green meant safe, yellow meant caution, orange meant dangerous, red meant deadly. Now the team gathered in an abandoned warehouse near the festival grounds. 30 members would release the drones across the city. Another team would hack into the broadcast system during the main ceremony. Remember, Sumin told them, once we do this, there's no going back. The government will label us all as terrorists. They already call me that, Juri said with a small smile. Might as well earn the title. Hansol looked nervous but determined. In the past month, he and Juri had grown close. He had been the first to believe her, and now he was one of her strongest supporters. The drones are programmed to focus on the most polluted areas, he explained to the team. Factories, power plants, and especially the areas around Junho's main facilities. Juri checked her watch. 3 hours until the main ceremony. Teams should move into position now. The resistance members split into small groups and left the warehouse. Juri, Hansol, and Sumin went to the broadcast center with 4 others. They wore festival worker uniforms and carried passes that the Resistance's tech experts had created. Security was tight, but the fake passes worked. They entered the broadcast center and found their way to the control room. The 2 guards outside were distracted by a staged argument between 2 resistance members in another hallway. We have 5 minutes before they return, Sumin whispered, as they slipped into the control room. The 3 technicians inside looked up in surprise. Before they could react, Juri's team used sleep gas, another technology from her ship, to knock them out. Sorry, Juri said to the unconscious workers. You'll wake up with a headache but otherwise fine. Hansol went to work on the broadcast system. He was the best programmer in the Resistance. In 3 minutes, he had control. Ready, he said. I can override the main feed whenever we want. Juri checked her tablet. Across the city, Resistance members reported that the drones were in position. Sync timing with the drone release, she instructed. Maximum impact. They waited as the festival ceremony began, the capital square filled with thousands of people. On stage, government officials gave speeches. Junho himself was there, standing proudly next to his brother Daiho. 2 minutes to drone release, Sumin said. Juri looked at the screen showing Junho, the man who was doing to Etera what countless corporate leaders had done to Earth, destroying a world for profit. 1 minute. Juri touched the small pendant she wore, a tiny vial containing a bit of Earth soil, the last piece of her home. Now. Across the city, 500 drones rose into the air. Hansol hit the override button. The broadcast feed switched from the ceremony to a split screen. One side showed Juri's face. The other showed a live map of the city with the drones marked as moving dots. People of Etera, Juri said, her voice calm but firm. My name is Dr. Juri Kim. Your government calls me a terrorist. I am not. I am a scientist from a world called Earth. A world that died because its people ignored warnings like the one I'm giving you now. On screens across the planet, people watched as the drones activated their visualization technology. Clouds of colored light spread through the capital city. Near clean parks, the light was green. In residential areas, it was yellow. But around factories and power plants, angry clouds of orange and red bloomed. What you are seeing is the actual pollution in your air, Juri continued. Made visible by technology from my world. The colors show danger levels. Red is deadly, with long-term exposure. Orange means respiratory disease. Yellow means caution. The camera feed switched to show festival goers looking up in shock as colored clouds appeared above them. Children pointed. Parents covered their mouths. Some people began to run from the red and orange areas. Your government and corporations have been hiding the truth, Juri said. They've altered data. They've silenced scientists. They've put profit before your lives and the future of your planet. The feed cut to data charts and images from Juri's records. showing Earth's decline. This is what happened to my world. This is what awaits Itera if you don't act now. In the broadcast room, warning lights began to flash. They're trying to shut us down, Hansol warned. 2 more minutes, Juri said. On screen, she looked directly at the camera. I have the data. I have the proof. And now you can see it with your own eyes. The air you're breathing is killing you slowly. The feed switched to Junho's energy headquarters, where a massive cloud of deep red hung over the complex. Junho Energy creates 60% of Itera's most dangerous pollution. Their own internal documents, which we've posted online, show they've known about the damage for years. Security alarms began to sound in the broadcast center. They're coming, Su-min warned. We need to leave. Juri nodded, but continued speaking for the camera. I challenge Junho to deny what you can now see with your own eyes. I challenge him to debate the science with me publicly. If I'm wrong, prove it. The door to the broadcast room shuddered as someone tried to break it down. Time to go, Hansol said, grabbing Juri's arm. One last thing, Juri said, looking into the camera. I watched my world die. Every human except me is gone. Don't let that happen here. You still have time to save Itera, but that time is running out. The broadcast cut off as they escaped through the air duct system Hansol had mapped earlier. They crawled through narrow passages until they reached a maintenance room, then took service stairs down to a lower level. Outside, chaos reigned. People were looking up at the colored clouds that hung over the city. Many were taking pictures. Some wore masks. Others argued loudly about what it all meant. The security forces were confused, trying to both capture the resistance members and deal with the growing public panic. It's working, Hansol said as they slipped into the crowd. Look at their faces. They can't deny what they're seeing. Juri watched as a mother lifted her child away from an orange cloud that drifted down a street. Nearby, an old man shook his fist at the red haze hanging over a power plant. Seeing is believing, she said. It's the first step. They made their way to a safe house on the edge of the city. There, they watched the news reports on a small screen. The government was calling the drones an illegal stunt using untested technology. Junho appeared, angrily denying everything and calling Juri a dangerous alien with an agenda to destroy Itera's economy. But the images told a different story. The colored clouds remained visible for hours. People shared thousands of pictures online. Some brave news channels took their own readings and confirmed the pollution levels matched Juri's claims. By nightfall, protests had begun outside Junho's headquarters. We've started something, Su-min said, watching the growing crowds on screen. Yes, Juri agreed. But Junho won't give up easily, neither will the government. This is just the beginning of the fight. Hansol took her hand. But now we have the people on our side. They can see the truth. Juri squeezed his hand but remained cautious. On Earth, we saw the truth too. But seeing wasn't enough. The question is, will your people act in time? 3 months after the Moon Festival, Juri stood in a crowded town square. On a large screen, Junho's angry face glared down at the people. These new regulations will destroy our economy, he shouted. Thousands will lose their jobs. The crowd booed. Since the drone demonstration, public opinion had turned sharply against Junho. His company's stock price had fallen. Workers had gone on strike. And now the government, under intense pressure, was considering new environmental laws. But Junho was fighting back hard. He funded ads claiming the pollution wasn't dangerous. He threatened to close factories if regulations passed. He even offered bribes to government officials. He's desperate, Hansol said, standing beside Juri. But still dangerous. Juri nodded. On Earth, companies like his delayed action for decades. We can't let that happen here. They walked back to their new base. The resistance had grown from 30 members to over 2,000. They operated openly now, with public support. Their headquarters was a former school building donated by a sympathetic community. Inside, Su-min was meeting with scientists who had defected from government and corporate labs. Even some former council members had joined their cause. Juri, Su-min called out. We just got word from our sources. Junho is planning something big. He's ordered his factories to increase production before the new laws can take effect. Maximizing profit while he still can, Ju-ri said grimly. The final grab. She walked to the large table where her Earth equipment was set up. Her AI assistant displayed new data on a screen. The latest atmospheric readings show a 15% increase in toxic emissions just this week, the AI reported. At this rate, environmental damage will accelerate beyond previous models. Ju-ri felt a familiar knot of fear. This was how it had started on Earth, a last desperate push by dying industries that pushed the planet past its breaking point. We need to stop him, she said. Not slow him down. Stop him completely. Han-Sol looked worried. How? He still has government protection. We can't just shut down his factories. Actually, Ju-ri said slowly, we can. That night, she called the resistance leaders together. The plan she outlined was bold and dangerous. Junho's entire operation runs through a central control facility, she explained, pointing to a map. If we take control of it, we can shut down his most polluting factories remotely. That's illegal, someone pointed out. So is destroying a planet, Ju-ri replied. Sometimes you have to break small laws to uphold the larger ones of nature. Sumin studied the plan. Security will be tight, we'll need a distraction. I'll provide one, Ju-ri said. I'm going to challenge Junho to a public debate, live, on the biggest news channel. Everyone stared at her. He'll never agree, Han-Sol said. He will if I threaten to release his personal files, Ju-ri replied. The ones showing he knew about the environmental damage 20 years ago and covered it up. You have those files? Sumin asked, surprised. Not yet, but I know where. They are. Ju-ri turned to a young woman who had recently joined them. Jinna, who had worked as Junho's assistant before quitting in disgust. And Jinna is going to help us get them. The plan moved quickly. Jinna used her old access codes to help them break into Junho's private server. There they found what they needed, detailed reports warning of environmental collapse, with Junho's signature approving their suppression. When copies were sent to Junho with a demand for a public debate, he had no choice but to agree. The debate was set for the main plaza in the capital. Thousands of people gathered to watch. Millions more viewed on screens at home. As Junho and Ju-ri prepared on opposite sides of the stage, Han-Sol gave her a small device. This will tell us when the team has reached the control center, he whispered. Good luck. Ju-ri nodded and walked onto the stage. Junho glared at her from across the podium. People of Etera, she began. Today we talk about your future, about whether your children will inherit a living world or a dying one. As she spoke, she displayed images from Earth, beautiful forests and oceans that had died, cities abandoned as weather grew too extreme. She showed data proving that Etera was following the same path. Junho attacked her aggressively. He called her an alien with no understanding of Etera. He claimed his companies created jobs and prosperity. He accused her of wanting to destroy their way of life. Is that what you think I want? Ju-ri asked calmly. To destroy your way of life? Obviously, Junho snapped. These regulations would set our economy back 50 years. I don't want to destroy anything, Ju-ri said. I lived through destruction. I watched my world die. Everyone I ever knew is gone. She paused, fighting back tears. I'm trying to save you from that fate. And I can prove that a better way is possible. The small device in her pocket vibrated. The team had reached the control center. They were in. Right now, Ju-ri continued, Junho's factories are releasing more pollution than ever before, a last grab for profit before regulations. But what if I told you those factories could run differently, cleanly, profitably? She nodded to someone off stage. A large screen lit up showing Junho's control center. Numbers and diagrams flashed as new settings took effect. What is this? Junho demanded. What are you doing? Showing a better way, Ju-ri said. My team has just activated the clean production protocols that your own engineers designed. Protocols you shelved because they would cost 5% of your profits. Jun-ho lunged for his communication device, but it was too late. Across the city, his factories were changing. Emission levels dropped. Energy use became more efficient, and surprisingly, production continued. You see? Juri said to the crowd. The choice isn't between economy and environment. That's a lie told by people who don't want to change. The real choice is between short-term profit for a few and long-term survival for all. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jun-ho stormed off stage, shouting for security. But his power was already fading. The images of his factories running cleanly were too powerful to ignore. 5 years later, Juri stood on a hillside overlooking the capital city. The air was clear. Green spaces had spread through urban areas. Solar collectors gleamed on rooftops. Wind turbines turned on distant hills. Han-sol joined her, carrying their 1-year-old daughter. They had married 2 years earlier, building a life together on this world that was now Juri's home. The council approved the last phase of the restoration plan today, he said. All major industries will be carbon neutral within 3 years. Juri smiled. Faster than we hoped. She looked up at the sky, thinking of Earth, a dead world circling a distant star. The wormhole had closed shortly after her arrival, cutting off any possibility of return. But there was nothing to return to. Do you still miss it? Han-sol asked softly. Your world? Every day, Juri admitted. But this is my world now, and we're giving Jisoo a future. She stroked her daughter's cheek. The child had her father's, blue-tinted skin, and her mother's earth-brown eyes. In the distance, a monument rose in the city center, a blue and green sphere representing both Earth and Idara. The inscription read, 2 worlds, 1 lesson. 1 destroyed, 1 saved. Juri wasn't the last human anymore. She was the first of something new. And the knowledge that had come too late for Earth had arrived just in time for Idara. She couldn't save her planet. But she had saved theirs instead. And in doing so, she had given humanity a second chance.